and there's an accident waiting to happen, and it's dangerous to all of us, and they'll make it a huge fine and kind of turn you into a pariah because you want to drive, yourself. Like that's going to be a weird thing when we go to, that change. We'll probably be really, really old then, but, that'll be a real funny thing, man.
Like
driving a car seems like an irresponsible thing.
Well, right now, when Uber is doing it, they've got quite a few cars experimenting. Obviously, there are actually two people in the car. One is a driver and another is a scientist or a technician copying all the results. And they had a newscaster in one of them. And
I saw that.
And the car stopped in the middle of intersection.
Yeah, because there was. Could you imagine if that happens on a parkway when you're going 60 miles an hour?
Yeah, and there was no driver to give it gas. Maybe let it keep going.
Well, the new thing, the new devices that they have now, which protect you from weaving from one lane to the next.
Yeah.
It's built into the computer of the car.
Yeah.
While there's a lot of positive with that. I mean, it's still a machine, and something can still go wrong. And what's to prevent it from causing as many accidents as it prevents?
Who knows? But it doesn't do anything. It doesn't make. It warns you. It's a warning system. You don't really.
No, it actually moves the car back.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I don't know how it has something to do with taking computerized measurements or something with the cars around you. I have no idea.
The only one I know is that it stops. It stops on its own when it sees a high risk. They have cars that stop.
Taste your coffee.
It's the wrong coffee.
Wrong
coffee.
It is.
Mark makes coffee, and he keeps mixing it up because I take it black with sweetener, and he takes it black unsweetened.
I don't understand this. I did that before too.
Yeah.
I was wondering. I'm saying to myself, tastes sweet. Didn't I give? I apologize.
That's okay.
I'm not doing my job. I'm going to be fired.
We're all getting old.
Yeah, really.
As we sit here, we're getting older. You still there, Naj?
Otherwise, what else is going on, Naj?
Yeah, I'm still.
Yeah.
Well, nothing much, man. We got the strange stories. There was a story about there's a bunch of wealthy people who are actually applying for financial aid for their kids and getting it in college, and they're actually, gobbling up some of that money, and people are upset about that. You got the story out of Chicago where 80% of the body cams, either the mic or the video, were tampered with or destroyed by the policemen who were wearing them. So, got a lot of stuff going on. As you probably know, my youngest son is a cop in New York. And for the life of me, I can't understand.
And he still wants Hillary for president.
No, I don't know what he wants. I hope he does.
You do, I said.
I do, yeah.
She's no friend of the cops.
Well, forget about the cops. I hope he's smart enough to vote his own conscience. But, if you're just doing your job, you have nothing to worry about because the video cam or your body camera will vindicate you every step of the way. So why mysteriously turn it off all of a sudden,
Not always, Mark. A cop thinks somebody's holding a gun and they're not, and they shoot him.
Well, but the thing is, then it's up to a jury to decide whether or not you did it purposely or if you were really in fear of your life. Okay?
Besides, listen,
you don't know until you're in that position.
Mark, if they have a video on, how are they going to throw how are they going to put the throwaway gun next to the victim?
I'm not talking about a throwaway gun. I'm talking about if somebody is reaching for a cell phone in his pocket. He comes out.
You got what I said, huh?
Yeah, I heard that.
Well, listen, I got news
I don't
for
think
you.
Mark got it though.
No, I didn't. I wasn't even thinking of a throwaway gun. But I mean, the
No, I
bottom.
said if their camera is working, I said how would they be able to put a throwaway gun there?
But I did say that if you did nothing wrong,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't be putting a throwaway gun down there anyway.
Yeah.
But if you did nothing wrong, then you will be vindicated. I mean, the bottom line is if somebody's reaching in their pocket, okay, and if they don't tell you they're reaching for a cell phone or they're reaching for whatever it is they're reaching for, and they come out with something that looks like a gun in their hand, okay, you of course would warn them first. I would like to think you would warn them first before you fire, okay?
Well, listen, if you have somebody pointing something at you, think it's a gun, you think you're going to warn them, you're going to shoot them.
Well,
yeah, well, I don't know, man. Like I said, all of this stuff is interesting, but that scenario rarely ever happens where, life and death moment, looks like it might be a gun, I got to shoot him. Like that scenario is not really that frequent. Now, that excuse is way more frequent than that actual occurrence. And like I told y'all last week, man, you can pull it up for yourself, officerdownmemorial.com. It tracks violence against police, and police been passing away from heart attacks and accidents and everything else. And right now, I think they're still at 39 for the whole country. So the idea that they're just out here getting shot down everywhere, like that, the numbers just don't bear it out. Now, the other way, those numbers do bear out, and that's kind of scary because we're in the thousands, I believe.
No, it's not in the thousands.
Well, not killing, but
yeah. Oh,
shooting.
Yeah. I mean, look how many people died in Chicago in the last 8 years. Almost 4,000 people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And if you go back, well, no, I think it's at what, 400. I think it's at 400 or 500. I think the highest they've had is like 570, something like that.
What?
And that kind of, typically
Murders
that's what it is. Matter of
in
fact,
a year.
Go back to 1920s Capone era. It was around there then. So, I mean, this is Chicago historically. Nothing different about it.
Yeah.
No, there was almost 4,000 killed since Obama came on. Look at the records. 30.
No, you're adding up all 7 years.
No, he is. He
I'm
is.
talking
Yeah.
about year by year.
Yeah,
you just
well,
added
this
all
year,
So if we go back, so if we go to the 20s and do 7 years, you're going to get similar figures. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Like, this is Chicago historically. Never been able to employ enough. Always been violent and rough in the trades, whether it was prohibition with alcohol or drugs. Now it's always been that way.
well, you know what they were talking. I think the debate mentioned, I believe, stop and frisk. Okay, and the bottom line is the statistics have shown that since stop and frisk was declared unconstitutional in New York, and they did away with it, okay, in 2014, the murder rate dropped by guns. In 2015, it went up slightly, and now for 2016, it's down again, and that's without stop and frisk. Because Giuliani, of course, was saying how important it was to clean
it dropped
up the city.
The killings from 2,000 to 500 or something.
What are you talking about?
Stop and frisk.
Yeah, but that's the difficult part. Like David Kennedy, the criminologist, probably one of the best out there. There's no real metric to figure out why crime is down or why crime is up, especially from that era. So they've been going through everything, and stop and frisk, they tried to take a bunch of credit for it, but the numbers just aren't bearing out that, it was the real catalyst. And no matter what, I'm pulling this up from my phone, but the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. No warrant shall issue upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or thing.
No, that's this.
Unless there's no warrant, we kind of have a document that says this is illegal.
That's the Second Amendment.
Like,
you know.
I mean, come on. At a certain point, we got to say, are we a country of laws or not? If we're going to say things are tough here, so we're going to violate the Constitution, you really don't have a Constitution if that's how you're going to work it. It has to go through the tough times and the easy times, holding on to whatever you consider, the real part of your society. You have to hold on to it. Otherwise, it's all up for grabs. So I could never agree with something like stop and frisk, no matter what city it was in.
Well, stop and frisk. Hold on a second.
Dominoes.
Now think of it. Stop and frisk. I'm
sorry,
stop
somebody's honking on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're a popular guy. Just stick your head out and wave.
He's out already. What do you mean stick out his head out? What do you got, a stoop there you sit on or on a chair?
No, sitting on a chair out here.
Okay. There's stop and frisk. I don't think it was ever meant to stop every person. If somebody looked suspicious, then they would do it. They were not just looking for to frisk every person.
Well, but when you think about it, I mean, did you ever watch? I don't know. Did you ever watch NYPD Blue? Naj, was it ever on in Atlanta?
No, I never watched it, but I've heard good things about that show.
Okay, there was an episode when the lieutenant from the precinct that they always would focus on was driving in a car with his wife in a white area, and they were pulled over by a patrol car, 2 white cops. And he tried to tell them that, he said, look, I'm on the job, I'm a lieutenant, blah, blah, blah. I know you're just doing your job. So, the cop didn't know when to keep his mouth shut. So, he started to say, well, when you see people who, really don't belong in the neighborhood, because it was a white neighborhood and they're black, he said, is that why you pulled me over? Well, the lieutenant had this cop transferred to his division in Manhattan, okay, which was in downtown Manhattan with all kinds of different minorities, okay, and it just, like payback being a bitch, sort of, I mean, but when you listen to college professors and lawyers and doctors who happen to be minorities, and they're just driving in their car and they get pulled over for no reason at all, okay, and they use the excuse of stop and frisk. I didn't think you belonged here.
Yeah, you're putting way too much at somebody's discretion. They decide if somebody looks suspicious. They decide if somebody looks like they're somebody who's up to something. That's way too much power to put in somebody's hands, and like I said, it nullifies the whole idea of no searches or seizures. You know what I mean? Like the idea that they can just decide somebody is suspect. That's like I said, it's a violation of the law. It's unconstitutional. It should have never been instituted, and it's a shame that people were willing to give up. Like it's that Ben Franklin, man. Those who are willing to give up freedom for security usually end up with neither. So there's no good in giving up something like this. Even if you're talking about a violent area or whatever, you should still police it by the letter of the law, because once you give it up, once you start fudging, who knows where you go.
And that's really what the people are asking for in the neighborhoods. They just want fair treatment under the law. That's all.
That's it. It's a simple one, man. It's simple. And if you go back over that data from that time, it's like 2.5 million or 4 million, something like that, stops. Over 240,000 people arrested, but only a third of them were actually convicted because the case just wouldn't stand up. Faulty reason for stopping, no real evidence of anything, and typically they became way of life crimes, disturbing the peace, assaulting an officer, which could mean you brushed up against him as he was trying to search you, or anything that could, any argument that could escalate to that. So it just became a situation where you just made the situation worse between the citizens of that area and the police. So I think it was a bad idea